Mythforce, aka if He-Man was a roguelite, has introduced to the world 4 new characters to play as in the 80s cartoon art style of the game. With each character having different abilities and a set of skills, it can be hard to decide which character you want to play for this new game and for your runs. So what did I do? I played all 4. And this is what I've concluded after my runs.
Women love reformed bad guys, right?
When I played Rico for the first time, all the way back in the demo, I didn't know what to expect from him. I thought, is he going to be good? Is he going to be bad? Is he going to be OP? He's your average rogue of the group, we all know that, but he's got a lot of things going on with him that I think we need to talk about. First off, I should note, he's the only character I died with in the Beast or Minion fight. The only one. All the other ones I made it through the level, I survived, no problem. He's the only one I actually died with. And, that came to me realizing he's got some pretty tough weaknesses. First off, he uses a lot of stamina, and I mean a lot of stamina. I found myself a lot of the time after clearing a room or getting done with a big fight, having 0 stamina and getting exhausted, or near 0 stamina and nearly getting exhausted. And then I'd have to walk away, regen, get sorted out. It's one of those things where he's super mobile, don't get me wrong. He's one of the most mobile characters, if not the most mobile character in the game. But it's just the stamina drain, man. It's so much. He heavily relies on the stamina gain perk off kill. If you don't have that perk where you gain max stamina per kill, you're not going to make it very far. Because your stamina is just going to drain too much, and the enemies are only going to get more difficult. But let's get to his abilities. Maybe his abilities have something redeeming about his character. Well, not really. His Q ability is just sand attack from Pokemon. You take some sand, you throw it in their eyes, you say, let's get their eyes. And they get blinded, they turn, they're like, oh, I can't see. And they start swinging wildly. And, it's just one of those things where you have to decide, do you now get behind them and attack, or do you just walk away? A lot of times, I found myself using it to get away. His E ability is like a dash with his sword towards an enemy that he pokes for a mid damage, and I think he knocks them back. It's an okay ability, but it's really a combo piece with the Q or the other abilities he has. Now, the R ability, aka his best ability by far, is an execution. You look at an enemy, you teleport behind them, you do an execution move. They get one shot pretty much unless they're a boss. Pretty simple. Now, all these abilities combo off of each other, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really help much because you're Rico. Your stamina drain is so high, you're not going to have enough energy to use the abilities half the time. You heavily rely on perks and augments for your stats because Rico isn't very tanky, and he doesn't have a lot of attack damage. The only thing he's really got going for him is attack speed and mobility. That's all he's got. So, in my opinion, Rico is without a doubt the weakest character in the game, and I hope to see that maybe in future updates he can get buffed or something, because my man needs love to be shown to him.
Strike first, strike hard, no mercy.
Hawkins, or Hawkeye and He-Man combined into one, is the archer of the group. He's actually really good in my opinion. He's got some of the best abilities in the game. He's got some pretty neat skills that you can learn while playing, like, aiming and shooting at the same time. While moving, that's pretty good. But he's also got some of the better abilities in the game. His Q is a panic button. He goes invisible, he gets a speed boost, he walks out of whatever sticky situation he got into in the first place. Good on him. His E ability is a homing lock-on shot that stuns the enemy for a little bit and gives them the corrupt, which means they take more damage while they're corrupted. And it can hit multiple targets if you're lucky, but it's hard to do. Once again, another skill you can learn. Very useful. But his R ability is a heavy hitter. It is a heavy like AoE damage. It's a circle, there's a black hole in the middle. All the enemies in the circle are going to get sucked into the middle, and then when the duration of the ability is up, it explodes, pretty much killing all the skeletons, near one-shotting all the enemies. The only thing that could really survive without taking Omega damage are bosses. That's it. It's it's honestly it might be one of the best abilities in the game. It's that strong. Now, some of the other good things about Hawkins that I noted down are good stamina management. I wasn't finding myself using a lot of stamina with Hawkins compared to some of the other characters like Rico and Maggie, especially Rico. Rico uses a ton of stamina. Like, I'm at 0 stamina almost every fight. It's crazy. But Hawkins, he's only good for ranged. He's not meant to be in melee, which is why you have a Q, you have a panic button for a reason. If you're about to get hit, if you're about to get stuck in a massive melee fight, you just press Q, or you can press one of your black holes and your stuns, and you get out of there. You get out and you walk away. You take no hits. Because Hawkins isn't, he's not exactly the tankiest either. He's not like Victoria, who just walks in, presses a button, goes Super Saiyan for 10 seconds, and one-taps all the enemies. He's actually got to be crafty in some situations. But overall, good character, pretty balanced, and I'd say he's the best designed character out of everyone in this game.
I dream of the day Eldrith has no need for an army.
Victoria, or the best character in the game by far. Victoria has a lot of stuff that helps you with combat and just the entire run in general. First off, Victoria is the tank of the group, which means she has the most base HP when starting out a run. This is useful. Now, Victoria's abilities, on the other hand, that is a different sight to see, because her abilities are strong. And I mean strong. Her Q ability, run in a straight line, charge with your shield, knock all the enemies you hit prone, you got some mobility in there. Oh, it's just so good. And the E ability is the Captain America shield throw, where you throw your shield, bounces off 1 or 2 enemies, and then it comes back to your hand. One of the cool things you can do with this is there's an augment for the shield throw, which increases the number of bounces the shield has. I tested out that augment in this run, and the shield would bounce about 6 times and return to my hand. It was incredible to watch. Such a good mechanic. Now, Victoria's R ability is easily, no doubt, no question, the best ability in the game, except maybe Hawkins' black hole. It's insane. Essentially what happens is, going into a pretty hectic combat, you press R button, you basically go Super Saiyan for a couple seconds. Anything you hit besides a boss is pretty much one tap to done, and you move on, and you're good with your day. It's insane. And not to mention, when you get your perks and your augments set out, it becomes even stronger. And that's one of the things I also like to talk about with Victoria is, Victoria, after fully maxed out, is unkillable. She is unkillable. Because you're basically never going to get hit. Because you're going to kill all the enemies before they can hit you. Now, keep in mind, at the beginning, Victoria does have slower attack speed, but that doesn't matter, because her base damage is so much higher than everything else in the game. And she's really only useful in melee is where she shines, but her bow does have slight uses, like clearing out the spike plants, or maybe destroying some vases if you want to search for gold. But for most of the run, you're going to use your mace and shield. Why? Because it's just that damn good. And that is why I think Victoria, without a doubt, is the best character in the game.
Would you believe me if I told you magic tastes vinegary?
Maggie is definitely the most versatile out of all the characters, with some interesting abilities and some cool stuff to her kit. But let's get into that. Obviously, Maggie is the mage of the group. She has also 3 main abilities as everybody else. Her Q ability is a teleport dash away from enemies. You look in the direction that you want to teleport to, you press the button, you'll see a circle form on the ground of where you're going to teleport. It's pretty much instantaneous. and boom, you're out of the enemy's way, and you've got some breathing room. It's a really good, it's a really good panic button. Is essentially what I'm saying is. Her E ability, it summons a bird companion where you're looking. You'll see like a place of where you're putting it when you press the button. The bird doesn't move, but it shoots enemies. It's like a turret. With augments, you can change the damage type of the bird. You can increase the damage, but less attack speed / fire rate. You get the idea. Now, Maggie's R ability, on the other hand, is an interesting one. So it's a shield bubble that protects you and other allies inside of it if you were to be in multiplayer. But another thing it does is enemies that walk in the bubble are slowed down. This is really cool. This is useful for getting away, once again, or it could be really good for charging up your fire attack, which we'll get into in a little bit. Another thing you can do with this that's really cool is the augments for this ability. I had 2 of the augments on, actually. What it did is one of them would inflict chill on enemies that were inside of it, and another one was that enemies would just straight up freeze when they walk inside of it, or when they're inside the bubble when it's placed. This bought me a lot of time as Maggie, and I will say it is a very useful ability for the beast or minion fight, and probably some other fights in the future. Now, let's get into Maggie, because obviously, as I said earlier, she's the most versatile. She's a jack of all trades. She's not amazing at one specific thing, but she's pretty good at everything. The ability of long range, medium range, short range. She's got her sword as a secondary, which, unlike other characters where the secondary is not very useful, for example, Hawkins, you're just going to stick to your bow. Victoria, you're going to stick to your mace. Maggie actually has a decent use for her secondary in certain situations, which I will credit Maggie for. Now, another thing that could be tough to learn with Maggie is how to use her primary. Her primary could be very complicated. One of the things I criticize with Maggie is one of her primaries' biggest flaws is that it really depends on specific perks. For example, how it works is you hold your left click, it charges up the spell, and if you charge it up all the way, it's a big fireball that can go long range. If you do medium or short length, it's like a wave of fire, and it's short or medium range, and it doesn't go very far. Typically, you're just going to go do max range. But the other thing with Maggie is, like Rico, she uses a lot of stamina, which is why you're going to want, once again, the stamina perks, aka you get stamina off of killing an enemy, because that is going to be crucial. Another perk you're going to rely on a lot when playing Maggie is the reduced cooldown or charge time of the spell, because that will determine a lot going on. Now, Maggie, is she the weakest character? No. She is nowhere close to Rico in terms of weakness, but she can be hard to learn. So just know that when you're playing Maggie in the future, I think Maggie's skill cap is very high, and I think there's a lot of things people are going to be able to do with her in the future that will be cool, as long as more updates that come out in the future. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about what I've concluded from this little experiment that I did, but just wanted to say, after all this conclusion and discussing and talking about gameplay and characters, thank you for watching this video. If you would like to see more videos and more content on my channel or future content, make sure to comment, like, and subscribe. The Inferno is out for the day. Enjoy life, because you only live once.